Hi everyone, I'm Tracy, your host for A Chandler's Channel, and today's session is our weekly reading for September 9th to, and I had this in my head, 15th, September 9th to 15th, 2013. So if that's what you're here for, please stay tuned. I will go get my spirit guide Whitehawk and consciously channel him very shortly, but I always like to touch back on the week previous and see what parallels have occurred. In the week previous, Whitehawk had stated that it would be a week of atrocities, a week of pain, a week of forgetfulness, and a lot of that was corresponding relating to the events in Syria. And so for me in my life, and well, the life as well around us. So in Syria, there's been no military strikes, but like I said, this is not an exact science. It doesn't mean like that it's not going to occur in this coming week, because sometimes it means it's coming. It's just not in this exact week. So it could be in this coming week. And if you read the papers, I mean, it certainly hasn't gone away. Let's put it that way. The strikes on Syria, and who knows really what is going in Syria, right? We only get what we hear from the news. And so he'd also mentioned in regards to that to pray, and there is a lot of power in prayer. So I do hope you have been keeping the people of Syria in your prayers, even the monsters. They need your prayers as well. In my own life, the pain and the atrocities came through nature. I had mentioned, I believe in the previous, no, maybe I didn't, or maybe I did, about the bunnies. My dog had found a bunny den, he ripped it apart, and I helped put the bunnies back in. We lost one bunny, and then when I took that bunny out, the unimaginable, that's what Whitehawk stated last week. When I took that bunny out, I found another dead bunny. So it went from being 3 bunnies to 4 bunnies that were in the den. And the 4th bunny, the second one that had died, Ollie had not picked out. So he must have died from other reasons that they die at such a small age. So the good news is that the 2 bunnies were thriving. They were wonderful. They looked like the little gold Lindor bunnies, you know. They started to get that big. Mom was coming, she was feeding them. The fact that I took the other 2 bunnies out of the den probably helped, because the flies were starting to come around, and then I read about maggots, and then maybe those maggots would have attacked the healthy bunnies and they never would have had a chance at all. So I was really happy. They were 10 days old, 11 days old, beautiful, and I had even updated my Twitter account and my Facebook account about this story, and I had posted a picture, and they're beautiful and healthy and energetic. And do you believe it? The next day I got up out of bed and I went to check on them. They were gone. I was absolutely devastated, and so were my children, that the bunnies were gone. Now, the evening previous, we had seen a skunk in our vicinity, and we have foxes as well here, but we figure it was the skunk. Because he did miss the den by about 10 feet the night previous. So I figured he had come back and took them. So we were just devastated. So in regards to Whitehawk's reading, you know, he was very well on for us, because it was a week of pain and it was a week of devastation in our family anyways. I guess the silver lining is we learned a lot about how much bunnies have to endure to survive in the wild, and that's why they procreate at such a fast rate. And then, of course, last night when I went out, I hadn't seen Mama Bunny around, because they really don't stay near the den when there's young to keep them safe. And I walked out last night and I saw Mama Bunny, and my heart just wrenched, right? Because when you're a fellow Mama Bunny or Mama Bear, you know, she must be just sad, right? That her bunnies were no longer there. So that was a snapshot of an aspect of my week that related to Whitehawk's reading. I don't know what yours was. I hope perhaps it was a little better. Maybe you could share your comments as to how there was an interesting amount of pain, or even to see pain around you in other people's lives. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen in your life, but it can mean that it will happen around you. You'll see, your neighbor going through a breakup or something odd like that. But keep aware. Journaling is a very good thing. So that's how my week shaped up. Let's go get Whitehawk and let's see how this week is shaping up. And I wanted to say something. Oh, I know what it was. Oh, so in regards to the bunnies. So in the end, when they were taken, and a small part of me does hope that they were big enough maybe just to leave on their own. I don't think so. But anyways, I felt I had prolonged the inevitable, that they had no chance anyways where their den was, with the fact that my dog had attacked it and then the skunk came back and took them anyways. They had 10 days more than I had given them. Than they would have had I not come upon them. So then I just felt really bad, right? Because it just felt like the inevitable had been prolonged, and maybe that's what's going to happen in Syria, is that the inevitable is just being prolonged. Anyways, we'll see. Enough about that. Let's go see how our week is going to shape up. Indeed, he says. He says the inevitable prolonged, or the prolonged inevitable. He says these are very wise words, he says, Tracy, on your part. And the reason I say that to you, my child, is that indeed the inevitable is just being prolonged through politics. And so when I look at your week ahead, although it will be a cool and fresh and crisp week, there will be some, it feels like, because I can feel it feels like hurt, pain. It's an uncomfortableness, it's an oddness. It's hard for me to describe this feeling. It's a mixture of uncertainty, a mixture of sadness, a mixture of uncertainty, but knowingness that something had to occur. And there's a sigh of kind of like, I guess it had to happen. But it still makes me sad that this happens in the world. He goes, yes. He goes, that is exactly what people, he says, will be feeling this week, he says, to come. For they do not want to see happen what is about to happen, and everybody wishes that they could somehow stop it, or prolong it, or inhibit it, he says, or anything, you name it. But in the end, they realized they could not, that it was something that was bigger than them. It was something that had to be done. And that it was something that through devastation in the end will come peace again. Yet, as humans, it makes us very, very sad to know that these power struggles occur in life in order for peace to resume. For the loss of life, for the loss of dignity, for just the plain loss of loss itself is grave. And there's like a shocking, or like numb We're shocked, we're numbed by it. We can't believe it. That somebody could do these things, but again, we'll somehow move forward. But for now, let's just stay here, and we're going to be numb and walk in unbelievableness and misery in a way. Because yes, my children. So be kind to yourself. And be kind to those around you, he says. But most of all, be kind to you, who you are. And give yourself the space and the time that you need to process these emotions, he says. For you indeed will need to process them in order to relieve them, in order to grieve them. For if you simply just swallow them, you are not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing yourself well. For we need to process and release, he says, in an everyday fashion. So he says, although the week will be filled with all these uncertain emotions, uncertainty, he says, do persevere through the week. He says, I do know that most of you had a challenging week, he says, including this child here, he says, with more than just the bunny aspects, he adds. And he says, and there is no doubt, he says, that you wonder if you should just toss it all in, just throw it all up and throw in the key or throw in the flag. Just give up, he says, because it is so difficult. I understand that, he says. And when it gets that difficult, here's what I want you to do. I want you to recede. I want you just to recede for a little while. For if you do not recede, he says, the anger that you are feeling from just wanting to give up, to throw in the towel, to just, you've had it, he says, that anger will come out. And he says, and so when it comes out, you will come face to face with others who are feeling very much the same as you. And so it cannot but help but cause this kind, right? Headbutting, a clash. So the best thing you can do, he says, is just sit back, relax, grieve it to relieve it. He says, get rid of that emotion, because underneath that anger, he says, if you're wanting to just throw in the towel and give up, he says, is the sadness of releasing your dreams. He says, releasing your fears. He says, not only underneath the anger is the sadness, he says, but there is that fear, because if you throw in the towel now, what else could you possibly do if this is where you are, he says, in your cycle. So sit back, relax, relieve it to grieve it, he says, otherwise you will bang heads with others, and it will be even a more challenging week. We do not want to bring that out in you, he says. So recede from society for a while. I don't mean months, I mean a few days, a few hours. Grieve it to relieve it, he says, through journaling, through art, through music, through dance, he says, through crying. He says, just get rid of it, he says. That ugly feeling, get rid of it. And then, he says, you'll find you are able to start a clean slate, a new day, and move forward and make a better judgmental decision. What he's trying to say, you're going to make a better decision. You know, it's not going to be so irrational. Yes, indeed, he says, that is what I'm saying. You're going to make better judgment. You're going to have better judgment, he says, and then your day will move away in a better way. So, recede, children, recede for a while, and all will be well. Otherwise, you will just meet your ugliness on the street. God bless, children. We'll get through it together, But in between it all, there will be some glimmer of hope, some glimpses of sadness, he says, but in the end, we must persevere and we must move forward. God bless, he says, on your journey this week in your new role on planet Earth. God bless. And then he kind of like pulls the reins of his horse because he's talking to us on the horse. And it's like, hi-oh, Silver. And he just rides off down the shore into the forest. He just rides away. And we disperse as we do. Because oftentimes when we come, we're just like at a forest's edge. And then everyone sort of comes out of the forest and then sits and listens to him if he's on his horse. And then, so now that the reading is ended, everyone just sort of disperses back to where they've come from, through the forest or wherever. So, Well, that's our weekly reading. Let's see how it goes for this coming week. And I'll give you my own example of when you're in a bad mood. Don't go out. Like if you can, I'm not saying in every instance you're going to be able to do this because you do have to go to work. But if you're in a bad mood and say you're at work, I guess, try to stay away from people who are just naturally going to annoy you. And you know who they are, right? Stay away from those people because they're going to be the people you're going to bang heads with, right? So for instance, I went out yesterday shopping and I try to stay away Saturday and Sundays from shopping because that's going to be the busier times. And but I made the Grieve I was going to go out. So I went out and the atmosphere was charged. And I found a lot of people who were in grumpy moods or just tired, I'm not sure. So, you know, I think I got flipped the bird, you know, this thing, a couple of times yesterday. And I was just like, well, because I would never do that, right? You know, I was backing out of a parking spot and they make parking spots so small now that it's hard. You got to inch back to make sure you're looking, right? And everybody drives vans or SUVs. And so I was looking both ways and behind me and I had it, but I missed. And I don't think I missed. I just think this 20-something-year-old guy was in a bad mood and he was going to displace his anger on me, right? So as I'm inching back, he goes, "Do you look around much?" And I looked and I went, "Sorry." And he flipped me the bird. And I went, "Have a nice day." I was just like, and he just grumpily walked on still, you know? And then some other road thing happened when I was driving, and the roads, you're supposed to merge, but the guy, you know, anyway, so it doesn't matter. So the truck behind me, the two men, young men again, like in their 20s, flipped me the bird. I'm like, And then I had a thing with a woman in the shop, right, you know? And I just thought, you know what, I gotta go home because I'm in a bad mood, because that was the day. You know, I found the bunnies were missing, so I was angry because I was sad. So it comes out as anger. I wasn't like gonna beat anybody up, but I was sad and I was angry at nature. And so these were the people I was meeting in my journey on the day. So that's how that can happen. So if you can, recede for a bit and grieve it to relieve it. So I came home, I had my big bawl out cry, you know, and I was better. And my energy was better and the people that I was around was better. So test it, you know, don't take my word for it, experiment with it and see what comes of it. All right, so our next reading is Whitehawk's Wisdom, which gets posted on Thursdays, and I've decided I was going to do it on past life because in the previous reading I had spoke a wee bit about past lives at the beginning. So I thought, what the heck, let's delve into past lives. Because a lot of the times, things that happen to us in our past life do affect us in this life. So check in to hear about that on Thursday, and then Mondays for our weekly reading. Subscribe; it's free. Like, comment, be kind, keep it clean. No flipping me the bird, all right? and share. All right, I'm Tracy for a Chandler's Channel. God bless.